Hello, I am an attorney with Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Dubuque, Iowa. Our presentation today is about legal rights. Legal rights come from our laws, starting with the Constitution of the United States. Federal laws under the Constitution define many of our rights and privileges and define the things that we are not allowed to do. These same laws define what the government can and cannot do. Federal laws are applicable everywhere in the United States. Your individual state laws work in a similar way, but are usually only in effect in your individual state. Laws can change, especially immigration laws can be subject to changes when there are changes in national or state leadership. Our legislature, made up of our congressional representatives, can write new laws or change old laws. Judges and courts can make decisions that change certain laws. Today's presentation is to help you be aware of general principles in law and how the law protects your rights. Since laws can change, we hope to update this recording or create a new recording when changes happen. Everyone is interested in how things will change around immigration. Until the changes happen, we don't know. For now, hopefully this presentation helps you understand some of your rights as they are right now. This presentation is general guidance only. It is not legal advice. You should always consult an attorney about your own individual circumstances if you have a question about the law. First, a little bit about our organization. If you live in one of the counties shown on this slide, you may be eligible for a free consultation if you have an immigration legal services question. At Catholic Charities, Archdiocese of Dubuque, our attorneys primarily provide assistance for people seeking family-based or humanitarian-based immigration legal services. Consultations are free. There are certain rights that everyone has, protected under our United States Constitution and other laws. Certain rights belong to everyone, regardless of immigration status. The image you see is of a small card which we encourage people to carry and to present to an authority who may be questioning or detaining you. And the card states that you wish to exercise your right to remain silent. This is a constitutionally protected right and means that U.S. authorities cannot force or compel you to share any information. You need to tell law enforcement or U.S. authorities that you are planning to exercise this right. Exercising your right to remain silent does not mean that you can't still give some helpful information, such as your own identifying information or basic information about circumstances to promote safety and allow U.S. authorities to do their job. U.S. legal authorities do not have the right to enter your home short of two certain circumstances. Law enforcement or immigration authorities can knock on your door and ask to be allowed in. You can give them permission, or you can deny them permission. The other circumstance where law enforcement may enter your home is if they have a valid warrant. A warrant is a document signed by a judge that gives a U.S. authority specific permission to enter your home without your own permission. In most circumstances, we generally advise people to not open your door for U.S. authorities. You may ask U.S. authorities for identification. U.S. authorities may present a warrant to you, and you may view it. If U.S. authorities have a warrant, they're going to enter your home. This would be a circumstance in which some communication with authorities would be appropriate. If authorities have a valid warrant, you can avoid damage to your door or a forced entry if you basically communicate through the door about the nature of their warrant. But remember, you have the right to remain silent, and you're not obligated to share any information with authorities. Some information that may be helpful to share with authorities, if they are going to enter your home, is about how many people are there, the nature of the people there, their age, health, etc. If authorities have a warrant to enter your home, that may be a scary situation. Two things to keep in mind: protect your rights, but also do everything you can to avoid any risk to the authorities or the residents' well-being and safety. Part of what you say will become the record of the case. It is likely in your best interest to say, "You may not enter, please leave. You do not have my permission to enter." As noted earlier, if authorities have a warrant, they will likely enter anyway. But you may be protecting your rights and the future record of your case if you state, "You may not enter, please leave." You should pay attention to what the officers are doing, where they're searching, and after they leave, you should take notes, the times, places that they've searched, and the things that they've searched for. This too may help protect your rights and preserve the record of the case. At the moment authorities arrive at your home, you probably will not have time to do a full, thorough review of the warrant, but you should read the warrant. At the time the warrant is presented, that is not the time to argue or debate with law enforcement, but it is a time for you to examine the search warrant and tell law enforcement, "I do not consent to you searching my home." Not all search warrants look the same. At the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned that laws come from several different authorities. There are federal laws, there are state laws, there are laws against criminal offenses, there are laws against civil offenses. There are judges in several different courts that have the authority to issue different types of warrants. So not every warrant may be identical to the picture shown on this page. But the picture shown on this page is a sample of the type of information you may expect to see on a warrant. While a valid search warrant may not look identical to this, it should generally have the same type of information. That information will include a signature by a judge. The warrant must be specific as to who or what authorities are searching for or taking into custody. And the warrant must have a general description of the person or the things that authorities plan to detain. Again, this picture may not be identical to the search warrant that is used in your jurisdiction or for certain purposes, but this information should generally appear in some form on most warrants that you see. Many immigration violations are not criminal offenses. They're civil offenses. Warrants for civil investigations and criminal investigations may look different. Warrants issued to various law enforcement agencies may similarly look dissimilar to each other. This is one version of a warrant that was previously used by ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement and is part of the Department of Homeland Security, tasked with enforcing immigration violations. Different standards apply when you are driving a vehicle. When you drive a vehicle on a public road, you are agreeing to obey the rules of the road, which include maintaining insurance, maintaining registration, and maintaining a valid driver's license. Therefore, if you are driving and you are stopped by legal authorities, you do not have the right to remain silent related to these specific aspects. That is, you must provide your driver's license, you must provide your proof of registration, and you must provide your proof of insurance. Other than that, your right to remain silent still applies. You should not volunteer additional information. While it is required to show your license, it is not, for example, required that you share where you're going, where you're coming from, or the names of the other passengers in your car. And remember that these rules apply only to the driver. Passengers still maintain their complete right to silence. If you are arrested, or if you are detained, it will be beneficial for you to have certain information memorized. If you are arrested or detained, you may be held in a circumstance where you do not have access to your phone or your documents. In this case, it would be helpful for you to have the phone number of your attorney or accredited legal representative committed to your memory. You should also have the phone number of your family members or an emergency contact committed to your memory. Many immigrants are issued an alien registration number, or A number, also shown sometimes as a USCIS number. This is a 9-digit number that will be individual and specific to each person. It would be beneficial if you have an A number to memorize your A number. It would be beneficial for you to memorize your date of entry to the United States and your immigration status when you entered the United States. If you have a current immigration status, you should know what it is, whether it has an expiration date, and the nature of your status. As mentioned earlier in this presentation, your right to remain silent is a powerful tool that helps you protect all your other rights. But sometimes it can be beneficial for you to share certain information. If you have a current immigration status that may protect you from being detained, it may be in your best interest to share this with authorities. You should also be mindful if you have any criminal history. If you know the phone number of your consulate, this can also be an important number to memorize. Please note that memorizing this information does not necessarily mean that you should share it with authorities. And keep in mind, if you are arrested or detained, any phone calls you make from the facility of detainment may be recorded. And just as law enforcement in many circumstances is required to remind you, anything that you say may be used against you in court. If law enforcement detains you or takes you into arrest, there are certain things you should not do. Do not attempt to run from law enforcement authorities. Do not attempt to flee in your vehicle. Do not resist or fight law enforcement authorities. Never provide a false name, false documents. Never try to mislead authorities about your identity or activities. And do not attempt to argue, persuade, or bargain with legal authorities. The best thing you can do is express your right to remain silent. Then, share only information conducive to promoting safety. Later, Use the phone numbers that you have memorized to contact your legal representative or family members. At the time of arrest or detainment, it is probably too late to investigate whether you have any legal defenses against detainment, arrest, or removal from the United States. There may be legal options for certain people to obtain a legal status, to update a legal status that they already have, or to consider other legal options that may protect them from U.S. immigration proceedings, removal, or detainment. Now is the time to consider investigating whether you're eligible for any immigration legal relief. If you are not, now is the time to discuss with your family what to do if you are detained. This includes planning for your absence if you are arrested or detained. What will happen with your other family members? Where will your children go? Who has access to your financial and personal accounts? Where copies of your important paperwork are stored? And where your finances and money are stored. Make sure that everyone in your family knows the information that's important to them. This is important to do not only in the context of immigration and detainment, but in general safety planning. Many laws and policies are often slow to change. Some immigration rules, especially, change very quickly. The information in this slide presentation is general in nature, and if you have specific questions about your case, you should reach out to an attorney or other legal representative to find out how the law specifically affects your circumstances and whether there's any additional protection or immigration status that would help you. This slide reviews some of the information presented in earlier slides. As a summary, remember, if you are detained and you are able to make a phone call, do not talk about the circumstances of your detainment on the phone. This information could be used to your detriment in criminal or immigration proceedings. Instead, make every effort to tell the family member or legal representative who you are calling where you are located, the phone number to call to reach your facility, and whether you have any upcoming court appearances. Many people wonder about their own risk of detainment. At this time, it's impossible to accurately assess the risk of every individual who may be listening to this presentation, and everyone's risk may be different. People at the highest risk of detainment and deportation or removal from the United States would be undocumented individuals with no current immigration status or legal permission to be or remain in the United States. People at medium risk are people who may have an immigration status, but that status may be subject to revocation or expiration. The people at lowest risk of detainment, deportation, or removal from the United States are people who have status, and that status is current and not expiring. This would include legal permanent residents who typically have an identification card showing that status, which is green in color. A legal permanent resident has a green card. Other people at low risk of detainment, deportation, or removal from the United States are naturalized U.S. citizens. That is, immigrants who have met the criteria to become citizens of the United States and have completed that process with immigration authorities in the U.S. And of course, U.S. citizens born in the U.S. are at very low risk for detainment, deportation, or removal from the United States. One of the ways to maintain safety is to avoid engaging in any unlawful behavior. Any suggestion of criminal activity would raise your risk of arrest. And if you're an immigrant, any criminal activity would increase your likelihood of arrest, detainment, deportation, or removal from the United States. Beware of scammers. Beware of people who are offering an immigration or other service who may not be licensed or professional service providers. At this time, November of 2024, it is our recommendation that people who are lawfully present in the United States should not depart the U.S. As of this time, November of 2024, if you are undocumented, it is too early to advise people to leave or depart the United States. Keep in mind that some undocumented people may be eligible for a legal status. With this in mind, it would be premature to leave the United States before exploring if a legal status is available to you. There are some important aspects of planning that anyone can engage in regardless of risk. But this planning is something that people who are undocumented or at high risk should do. If you are able to obtain your U.S. passport as a U.S. citizen, you should do this. If you are not able to obtain a U.S. passport because you are not a U.S. citizen, you should consider obtaining a passport from your country of nationality. You can do this by contacting your embassy or consulate in the United States. If you have legal status, you should have a copy of the document or identification card that shows your status, and you should keep copies available for your family members, who should know how to access it in case you need to show proof of your immigration legal status. If you have questions, you can contact Immigration Legal Services of Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Dubuque, Iowa, by calling our Cedar Rapids number at 319-364-7121. Thank you for watching this presentation.